Hi everybody, it's Jane here. I'm live. I am back in Canada. I know it's crazy. I've been in a lot of different places recently and I'm quarantining here in Toronto. It's a very strict 2-week quarantine. Only Canadians are allowed in Canada, so I know it's a great country. You'd all love to come and be here, but our borders are closed. So you can only come here if you're Canadian. Lucky me, I have a Canadian passport, so here I am. A couple weeks ago, you might remember, it wasn't even a couple weeks ago, that I, in a crazy moment, decided to do a little video on how to make the perfect pour-over coffee. And actually, I got a lot of comments back saying, wow, that's amazing. I made the best pour-over coffee of my life. So that has kind of inspired me to do a little bit of a series on old food, but maybe it's not new ways to prepare it, but maybe ways that are new to you. So these are very big basics. It's not bread. Bread's a whole other thing. And I was just making some beans because I actually normally live in Mexico. We eat a lot of beans and we really know how to make beans. Okay. And it struck me that a lot of people may not know how to make beans, or they may buy beans in a can, like not baked beans. They're a whole recipe, but just beans in a can. And there are a couple things about beans in a can. Number one, they're heavy, right? Transporting beans in a can home, heavy. I'm sure the Amazon delivery guy will thank you if you move to dried beans. Second thing, beans in a can, expensive. Compared to steak, they're cheap, but a can of beans versus a bag of dried beans, huge price difference. Bag of dried beans, much, much, much cheaper. Second thing, no, that was the second thing. Third thing is what's in it. So you want to look at your can of beans really carefully and see what they've put in it. A lot of beans used to have sugar in them. They probably still do. They probably have a lot of salt. Now, beans need a little bit of salt, but they don't need a lot of salt. So actually, the best thing that you can do for your health and for your wealth, two big themes in this COVID moment, are to buy dried beans. Okay, dried beans, dried lentils, really, those are fantastic things for you to buy. And it's a little bit of a drag, okay, because you have to do a bit of thinking ahead. And what you need to do is you need to soak your dried beans overnight or all day. Cold water, okay? So here's my bowl of dried beans, and I am just using today plain old kidney beans, okay? And they've been soaking since last night, so they've had a good several hours of soaking, at least 14. 8 is fine. Okay, so you want to soak them in cold water. That's very important. Don't use hot water. Hot water will actually sour them because it begins to cook them. They begin to ferment, very bad. And you just want to leave them there, let them think about themselves overnight. And actually, you can leave them out until you're ready to cook them that night or that day for lunch. And what you want to do before you cook your beans is you want to drain them. I'm going to get a colander, and I'm just going to be over here draining my beans. And you want to drain them because you definitely want to cook them in nice clean water. This is one of the ways that you get the fartiness out of beans. So a lot of people fart a lot when they eat beans, and actually the darker the beans, the more farty it makes you. So if you buy white beans, you're going to be less farty than if you buy dark beans. So black turtle beans, most farty. Red ones, probably medium farty, and white ones, least farty. But soak them and throw away the water. And if you want to change the water a couple of times while you're soaking them, that is also going to help reduce the fartiness. Okay, if you take your beans, put them in a nice big pan, and now I'm going to put more water in. I'm just over here, putting water on my beans. And you want to generously cover them, okay, because they will continue to absorb water. So they're covered in a good amount of water, and they're here in my saucepan. Now, the next thing that is really key, in my view, to tasty beans, 1 onion, okay? It's a small onion, just cut in half. Put it into the bean pot. 1 garlic. Put it into the bean pot. And by the way, that was about 150 grams of dried beans. So we've got the 150 grams of dried beans soaked. We've got a small onion, we've got a garlic, super ingredient, cumin seeds. You don't need a lot, you just need a pinch of cumin seeds. They are going in. And you need a nice pinch of salt. Okay, again, not a ton, just a nice pinch of salt. And that's it. Now, if I'm in Mexico and I'm making beans for my Mexican friends, there are two further things that I will put in. Number one is I'll put in like one clove, like a clove, not a clove of garlic, a clove. And I really will put in one clove, not two, just one. And the other thing that I will put in is something called epazote. So epazote is a Mexican herb. It's really pungent and it's really important to Mexican cooking for two reasons. One is flavor. It adds a very particular flavor. And the other one is it also reduces fartiness, okay? It alkalinizes the beans as they cook and reduces fartiness. So it's flavor and fartiness, good flavor, bad fartiness. You can't get that. Now, if you can get seeds somewhere in some catalog, epazote, E-P-A-Z-O-T-E, get some seeds, plant it. I'm sure it grows like a weed. And it's very pungent. And what you do is you cook it in the beans and you throw it away. Same when you're making a green sauce. You cook it in the pot with the other ingredients, throw it away. If you can't get epazote, you can use a little pinch of something called asafoetida, which is something that they use in India when they're cooking dal. And again, it reduces fartiness, it alkalinizes. And if you don't have that, you can do a tiny square, like that big square of kombu, which is the hard Japanese seaweed. Just cut a little square and put that in. Same thing, alkalinizes and reduces fartiness. Now the kombu is not going to add a ton of flavor. It's going to add a bit of flavor, but not a ton. And I certainly use kombu. If I don't have epazote on hand, I use kombu, I use asafoetida, I use all three. Not necessary, but definitely helps with fartiness. That's it. I'm going to put a lid on my beans and I'm going to turn them on. I'm going to bring it up to the boil and then I'll reduce it to simmer. And with these beans, it'll probably be a good 40 minutes. If you have a pressure cooker, it's far less. It's like 20. But it really depends with beans because if they're old and super dry, they're going to take longer to cook. Okay, so you could find with super dry beans that they're going to be on there for like 45, 50 minutes. You're just going to cook them and cook them and cook them. They'll eventually cook. But you may want to look. I have no idea if there are ever packaging dates on any of these things. They certainly don't go off, so don't worry about that. Ever. Don't listen to the sell-by date on a bag of beans, okay? They could be here for the next 3,000 years. They'll probably be just fine as long as they're dry. They'll just be very dry. And so that's it, okay? You're going to bring them up to the boil and simmer them 40 minutes, try them. They should be very soft, okay? There should not be the slightest bit of chalkiness when you try one bean. And the reason is they are really hard to digest. Okay, so they have to be well cooked. They have to be nice and soft, no chalkiness at all, no bite, no al dente with your beans. And that's it. That's basic beans. And I hope that you've learned something about making your beans. Number one, soak them. Number two, change the water. Change it a lot if you want. Number three, I love an onion, a clove of garlic, and a pinch of cumin as the basics, and a pinch of salt. If you can get something like asafoetida or epazote or kombu, a little bit of that in the water helps. When you finish cooking your beans, drain them, throw away the onion, throw away the garlic, throw away the epazote or the asafoetida or the kombu. Don't bother throwing away the cloves. You're never going to find them. Don't bother throwing away the cumin. You're never going to find that either. And enjoy your wonderful beans. You can have them hot. You can have them cold in a salad. One of my wonderful friends, Planet Lester Baker, is here and saying that they use a lot of kidney beans and she started freezing them cooked, which is a fantastic tip. So then they're always there on hand. So you can make a great big pot and you can divide them into smaller portions and pop them in the freezer and pull them out when you need them. So beans, love. Super nutritious, super cheap, and extremely flexible. Maybe we need to have more little live sessions on what to do with them when you've cooked them. But this is how to cook your basic beans. And I hope you have learned something because it's been a pleasure. Bye for now.